We are recording. Welcome, everyone, to a systems thinking and systems approach to quality management and supply chain management done by Dr. David. Okay, David, sorry. Last name again?
Tsetse.
Chet. There we go. All right. So Dr. David Tsetse is a board certified environmental scientist with a BSc in geology, MSc in environmental engineering, and an MBA in engineering management, and with a PhD in environmental science degrees. He's had over 20 years of experience in their international development with over 15 years of service in the United Nations Children's Fund. Dr. Tsetse is currently a chief of the technical and logistical services section with the Indiana Department of Environmental Management and a professor with the Unity Environmental University. So please welcome David.
Tsetse.
Tsetse. There we go.
It's okay to say David, Sean. That's fine.
Appreciate it.
You
Thank
don't need
you.
to be too much formal about it. Thanks so much, Sean, for this opportunity, and thanks for everyone who joined to listen to this this webinar or this conversation. I'll call it a conversation because most of the things we'll be talking about today, I'm sure you've already heard about them or you're already using them. So it's just a matter of having a refresh or try to explain what you do in the context of system strengthening. Before I start, I want to say whatever I say here, it's purely my own opinion. It has nothing to do with my employers, my current employers, and my previous employers. So just to put that out there. So the title for today is Systems Thinking, Systems Approach to Quality Management and Supply Chain Management. So the outline for our discussion today is like this. I'll touch on the foundations of system strengthening, system thinking, and systems approach, because oftentimes there's always, they are used interchangeably, but then there's a slight difference between the two. So I'll touch on that, and then I'll move on to how systems thinking and systems approach is applied in quality management that we all know or we do in our daily activities. I also do the same for how system thinking and system approach are applied in supply chain management. And then I'll end the session with my lived experience when I was working with UNICEF at the Global Supply Headquarters in Copenhagen. So I'll give you an example of how I apply the system thinking and then the systems approach in my previous job. So that's the outline for today. So before we go into the discussion of our systems thinking and systems approach, I think it's very important for us to start with the basics. What exactly is systems? And this, as I mentioned earlier, this is nothing new, but it's just to refresh ourselves. It's basically a group of interrelated parts that work together towards a common purpose. So the word that's common. And then systems helps us to understand the overall system behavior and how that can help us have a better picture of the interrelationships that are in that particular system. So in other words, there is a meaning and a function when we come to discussing or describing a particular system within the context of behavior and also the interrelationship. So that is one thing that you need to pick, that systems have different components, but how they relate to each other and why they relate, it's what we'll be looking at. It sounds a bit conceptual, but we'll try and unpack it and make it a bit more simple as we move along. So that is what a system is. So this picture sort of illustrates it for you to visualize what a system looks like. So in terms of hierarchy, system thinking, it's more at a higher level, let me put it that way, compared to systems approach. So in other words, system thinking looks more of the mindset or the philosophy behind what you do. Uh, that's the higher level type of applying the systems approach. So it like trying to understand the different connections, the different relationships, and feedback loops that you have in a system, the understanding part of it. So that is so when you get to understand that, then you're in a better position to either develop your strategy or find a way of using a particular framework or tool that will help you achieve that result. So system thinking sort of helps you to see how the system is, if it is in terms of shape or in terms of content. It also helps you to know how dependent the different components are within the system. And another aspect that it does, it looks at it helps you to understand how the different systems behave, so that will give you a clearer picture. And more importantly, the work that we do in our sector, which is mainly root cause analysis, it helps us to also have a better, drill down to what exactly is causing the problems that we are trying to sort of prevent or control or solve. And then lastly, it sort of helps you to have a learning culture, a learning approach to doing things. So that is essentially what system thinking is. So you see that all these things that I've just mentioned, these are things that we do in our daily work as quality assurance or supply chain professionals or other professionals. But it's how we identify them in the process. So that is more of the system thinking. So what I want you to take away from this slide is just remembering that system thinking, it's a mindset. That mindset that you have to develop a culture in a team, that people look out for these things or try to understand these components that I've just explained. So, and then the systems approach, I would say it's a bit lower in terms of hierarchy. So that sort of looks at, okay, now you've used system thinking to understand the dependencies, the behavior, the learning patterns, and what do you do to actually put that into action. So the systems approach sort of deals with the methods or the direct application of different tools and frameworks to solve the problem or sort of correct the situation that you're working on. So in other words, the systems approach, it's more of the action arm of systems, when you're dealing with systems. And here it helps you to design strategies, frameworks, solutions, how to manage, teams or projects, how to improve, continuous improvement, different tools that will help you to carry out these activities. That's what systems approach it's all about. So I've just listed a couple of tools that we are all familiar with to sort of put it in context. So that's systems approach. So with this one, again, what you need to just take away at systems approach is a method. System thinking, it's a mindset. So this slide presents sort of the simplistic view of system thinking and systems approach. So system thinking and systems approach both adopt a holistic approach. That means they take a whole approach to analyzing. They don't look at the small parts of a system, but they look at the whole system in totality. So that is the common aspect of both of them. System thinking provides, again, what I talked about, the mindset, and then the systems approach provides the tool. In other words, the method. System thinking helps us to see how the system is. So it more or less gives you a lot of insights for you to think and then try and question critical thinking to be able to generate insights that will be useful to strengthening whatever situation or project that you're working on. And finally, systems approach, it's more or less the action. I say the tangible things where you try to measure and report against. So that's sort of a summary of the foundation of systems that we all apply in our daily work. So now with this thinking and with this understanding, I'm going to move on to the next part of the presentation, which is how do we apply these in quality management and also in supply chain management. But first, I'll start with the quality management. And so that, again, I talked about all that you're hearing. This is not new to you. Most of you're already applying. But the most important thing with applying systems in quality management is, you look at the whole system, just like what we talked about, meaning quality assurance. You look at, if it's an organization, you look at the whole organization. What processes are in the organization, or what systems are in the organization that will help the whole organization function. So it's not part of it, and it's not immediate actions, but long-term results or outcome. So that's more of a, so here, for example, you see in most organizations, the quality assurance manager is part of the senior management. You develop your organizational quality strategy. And then whenever there are each course corrections or audit recommendations, you sit and then you respond to those recommendations and advise and make sure that quality assurance is well articulated in strategic documents within. So that is more of looking at the whole picture, the bigger picture of the organizational team that you work with. And again, in quality assurance, you also look at how efficient our processes. So when you're doing that, and as part of, because when you do that, you sort of literally, question every process that you're dealing with to see what is working well and what needs improvement or what needs replacement or a bit of a tweak. So that if you're able to do that, to make sure that the processes are efficient, if it is downtime and other things have been improved, lead times have been reduced and things like that. That in itself, it's you're applying a system. So we are not just looking at separate things that do not sort of relate with each other to achieve a common goal for the organization. And then the last point is more of the planning side of what we do as quality assurance professionals. We are part of the whole planning process, right from beginning to the end. The definition of need, the monitoring, the design, the evaluation, all that, and making sure that we have, quality standards and quality management plans attached to the actual deliverables that our organizations or companies intend to implement at the strategic levels. So all those are part of the work of systems, applying systems and quality management process. And here I sort of highlight, I would say, the common things that we do, the QC, QA activities that we are used to. It becomes sort of a routine type of activities that we do that we tend to forget that this is part of a good systems approach to working. So that's a core component of whatever we do. So, and then continuous improvement is also another component of applying systems thinking. And with that, you have, different the KPIs, have making sure that you have a feedback loop where you learn from your mistakes, and then the learning, you apply that learning in the whole process to improve the system, the process, and then the people as well. And then making sure that you don't over budget, over plan. You measure your improvements in an incremental way so that at the end of it, all the small bits, if you add all the improvements, you're able to sort of have a bigger picture of the total progress that you have in the organization. So the other points, it's the different initiatives that we take as quality assurance professionals. There are situations where I would say an incident occurs where you are being asked to go and investigate or to go and sort of assess. You look at that incident not in isolation, but in relation to the bigger processes or the organization. But at the same time, you are sort of trying to better understand that particular task or initiative that you have been tasked to sort of assess how efficient or effective or what course corrections that you can put in place to address that. And then again, the operational efficiency activities that we undertake, making sure that money, we get the best out of financial resources that we have in the organization to improve the whole business success. That is also part of systems. And then the last point on this is customer satisfaction, or customer service that we provide. We make sure that is more of the hallmark of every company or every organization. There you try to segment, try to see what are the parameters that you use to be able to assess customer satisfaction and how do you report against that. So all those things are part of systems application in quality management. So now I'm going to move on to the next application, which is how do we apply them, systems thinking in supply chain. But before I do that, I just want to make a point that the application of systems in quality management and so there is not I would say a separate, these are intertwined activities that sometimes is very difficult for you to draw a line between them. So but I just try as much as possible to give a gist of how some of the things that we do in the supply chain management aspects also touches on systems thinking. So here we all know supply chains are complex, and with COVID and what is happening now, I mean, yeah, those who are directly involved in the supply business, the complexity of the supply chain that we have is just unimaginable. And that's where system thinking also helps to clarify the different relationships and the different behaviors that the supply chain actually displays. And if you're able to understand that, then you'll be able to find, I'll say, the missing bits and pieces in your supply chain to make it more efficient. And now everything rests on how efficient and effective your supply chain is. It doesn't really matter whether you're in a particular sector or you are in the private, public, whatever. Supply chain efficiency is one of them. So with systems thinking approach, you are able to have I'll say a fairly good understanding of how it works and make sure you plug in all the loopholes that do. System thinking in supply chains helps you to understand, and it helps you to be a bit more proactive, because with that, you're able to remember, the best insights into what is happening. So with that, you'll be able to, prepare yourself in anticipation of certain risks or certain behaviors, and then make sure your decisions are well informed, not only to correct whatever you think will come, but to optimize the whole process. So that's one thing that systems thinking in supply chain also helps us to do. And then with the systems thinking and approach, again, it helps, to highlight the different, connections and interdependencies and how that can be overlooked sorry, as and when needed, and where it should be strengthened in other ways. So this relates to the other one as well. So leveraging systems thinking, what I try to do here is to sort of point out key things that are critical in whatever situation that you apply systems thinking, whether it's in supply chain or it's in, sorry, in quality assurance. You need to make sure you identify the weak points, because every connection or interconnection between different components or subsystems, you don't want to have a weak point or the missing link, because the weakest point in the whole system will sort of drag the rest of it down. So what you do is you are always consistently and with a lot of effort trying to see what is in the quality assurance process or management system, what is in the supply chain management, whatever system they have, that you think that it's going to drag the whole system or make you not achieve the objective of what you intend to achieve. So that is the purpose of it. So if you're able to identify that, then what you do is you strengthen that, either you replace, you manage, or you substitute to make sure that you have a well functioning. And then when you do that, the whole learning that you've gotten from that approach, you feed it back into the whole, the bigger picture or the system wide, to help you not only next time identify the weak point, but know where the weak point is actually going to be showing up. So you are well prepared for whatever situation that will happen for you to be able to achieve. And then making sure that your strategies are resilient. Because if you're able to know the weak points and you have a feedback learning loop, your strategy will always be active, meaning they'll be able to react, or they'll be relevant in whatever situation they find in, whether if it's a downturn in the economy or whether it's a season of profits and increase. So you'll be able to have a good functioning way of what is happening in the bigger organization. And then the ultimate value for every ultimate goal for every organization is to sort of companies to create value. So with system thinking, you're able to, it helps you to create value based on the different explanations that I've just given. Because if you're able to sort of plug in the holes that sort of are creating the weaknesses, and you're able to sort of have a good feedback system, then you are strengthening your system. So resources will be used better, and then quality products or processes will be in place, and then you create value for money. So that is also one thing. And then when you create the value, how you communicate it and how you deal with the waste is also very important. So with systems approach, you'll be able to know what, for example, in terms of communication, what message should you send to what segment of customers, and when should you do that to be able to get the maximum impact. All those thinkings are all based on systems application. So those are so after going to that, I'm not going to share with you. I'm just looking at the time now. I think I'm doing well on time, right, Sean?
You're doing great.
Okay, so then what I'm going to do now is to give you a practical experience of how I apply these system thinking and approaches in my previous work. It will sound a bit old, but then I think you sort of have a feel of it. So between 2008 and 2011, I was a global contracts manager with UNICEF Supply Division based in Copenhagen. Essentially, my role was to manage all global contracts for the organization that relates to water and environment, do all global procurement, and then also my team provides technical support to regional advisors and also direct support to country teams, the different UNICEF country offices. So, and then as part of that whole process, you manage risk, deal with suppliers, and also make sure you do a lot of, so that's just what I was doing in those 3 years in Copenhagen. So when I took up the position, there were a couple of issues that were just very clear. The lead time for water supply products to country offices were way above 12 months. Some of them were 2 years. A country program or a country office orders, let's say, for a hand pump. It takes about a year and a half for them to get it. So that was a major issue. And then there were also complaints about the quality of products that they were getting. They wait all this while for 6, 12 months, and what they get, it's not even what they wanted, or it's just something that will just be used for a few days. And then the UNICEF catalog, which is very comprehensive, in a way it was difficult for country offices or customers, let me use the word customer, to be able to go to the catalogs and identify what exactly they want to order or request. And even if they do, the technical specifications were difficult to sort of for them to understand or relate to. So that was also another. And then there were limited arrangements in terms of what options are available for the customers to buy or different items from different regions. And at that time too, there were a lot of also new players in the market. There were a lot of new products and technologies that were coming in, especially in the water environment sector, especially for emergency response. Filters, jerry cans, water treatment. All these there were a lot of them coming in. So we needed to sort of make sure that we have some form of quality assurance, and then we're able to sort of have some standards even to even upgrade certain innovative products to a different. So these were things that were happening those times when I took up that role. So what I did in terms of applying is, first of all, was to understand that I had to understand what the situation was in the supply division. So I took my time to run a bit of survey with country programs, and some of the problems I had to lift that problems myself, because before I moved there, I was in the country office. So I was I came to that position with that experience and then immediately I started working with the team to see, first of all, now how do we, reorganize our component of the catalog to better make it user friendly so that customers will be able to identify what they want. So that was another. So that exercise was more of we used the category management approach to be able to do that. We looked at the whole catalog, tried to segment different products into different categories, high value, low quantity, and all that. So that, and then made sure that we created a system that will make it easily available. And the good thing with that approach, it also helped us to be able to come back to that, develop different procurement arrangements and other things. So that was one thing uh, that we did. And then we also took time to understand why was it taking over 12 months or close to 2 years to order a pump from a country. So that made us to sort of get to understand some of the risks involved in the whole process, the whole supply chain process, and what was the challenge and what we can do about it. So that gave us a better understanding of that as well. I talked about the underlying causes, and then we also looked at what the UNICEF. There are different agencies within the UN. So what supplies or supply arrangements are other UN agencies using or having that we can piggyback to make sure that we have a good service to country programs. So as part of that, the one thing that we did, which you see in Africa, was to develop a wash technology information package. And what that package did was to streamline different hand pumps and water pumps, make the information both technical, financial, procurement, and also user friendly for country officers to go and say, oh, if I want X or India Mark II hand pump, this is what I need. This is the serial number. So all that was done. There was a way of country officers ordering items that they wanted at the quality that they needed it. So that was sort of a way that we were able to address the issue of the need identification or specification identification or user friendliness by customers. And then the other thing, the other thing that I did was, we at that time there were concerns about issues with sustainability in terms of, looking at the whole supply chain. How do we reflect remember that was a time where the SDGs, the new SDGs were the old ones, the SDGs were to be developed. So a lot of discussions are how do we make our procurement processes more sustainable. So what I did was to develop a sustainable procurement strategy to reflect how not only the planning stage and the procurement stage, but then the waste of what is being produced from what we buy, what is it going to be used, the energy throughout the whole process, and also in terms of labor and other things. I looked at that as well, and we're able to develop for only our unit, the water and environment unit, not for the whole. But that in a way spoke to the bigger supply chain system because others could see what we were doing at that time and also try to develop their own specific unit strategies as well. And then one key component that played a major role in the success that we achieved at that time was going to the country offices, sitting down with the users of these products to understand what exactly they need. So that helped us to be able to come back and then revise some of our specifications of items that we have in the catalog, or maybe even develop certain arrangements like procurement, maintenance, and operation arrangements for them. So I would say, making our products at that time, and I'm sure it is still fit for purpose, that we don't just buy products for customers, but making sure that it fits the needs or the purpose for which the customer is asking for that particular product. So that's a key component. This is me here in one of the field visits that I went to get some of the information. And at the office level also, one thing that UNICEF Pride or the UN Pride itself is the diversity of people in the office. Everybody brings different perspective to the solution. So what happens is like you have a mix of ideas that can fertilize and grow so that no situation is unique and everybody brings its contribution to the problem. So in most cases, most of our strategies and most of the plans are able to sort of mitigate some of the potential issues. I'll give you an example. For example, if I have an order from, let's say, Tajikistan for hand pumps at that time, and I have a Tajik person in our office, I'll be able to get to know what the procurement system is like, what the clearance and the logistics, and have a better feel of where the bottlenecks will be in the whole supply chain. So those interactions played a critical role in making sure that whatever we delivered. For this particular one, I was just a participant of the whole process, but I felt that it played a key role in making sure that I was able to apply the system thinking and the systems approach in the work of my team. And then, when I think I talked about the specification thing, and then at that time there were issues about some of the products that were being sent to country office. I told you about the fit for purpose and other things. So what I did at that time was to create just a normal spreadsheet for country offices to log report their problems. So one issue that came up so prominent was the type of jerry cans that we were actually buying and then sending to country offices. So what we decided at that time, product innovation was fairly new in the UNICEF supply division. Now it's gotten to a very high level, which I'm very impressed about it. So we started this whole discussion around how do we get the water jerry can a bit more collapsible, because that will help us transport more, and also making sure that we cut down on cost at the same time providing what the customer needs. It went through a whole process of product development. When I was there, I got an arrangement with a supplier, German supplier called Promens. So they were providing the business side of how to improve a product. And then we engaged with the Technical University of Denmark to provide the academic side. And we worked with supply division working on possible options. By the time I left, the product was still in its development stage. And I was happy to actually test it in my new duty assignment in Sudan when I was made an office chief there. Now the product has been fully developed. It's one of the standard items in the UNICEF catalog, which I am very impressed that. So this is just to show you how innovation was incubated during the time that I was there for a particular project, and it has gone through the whole process of piloting, and it's now not only a product, but a standard product, which means it's something that UNICEF considers important and also procures quite a bit. The other products that have actually followed the same pattern. So just to give you that, and this again, it's all about system thinking, because you are able to sort of pick the issue that is creating the problem, do a deep dive into it, see how that links into the customer, the supplier, the business processes, and come back with a solution. So that's a clear example of how system thinking, systems approach helps promote innovation. And then what we also did was to explore other procurement arrangements. So when I went, most procurements were done globally. So we decided to do direct orders, where we have arrangement with suppliers, and then as per the need by the customer, the customer can order, and then we take care of all the paperwork, and then the supplier ship the items directly to the customer. We also looked at regional long-term agreements. And with that, what we did, we had to do a market survey to see what products are there and develop long-term arrangements with matured products that we know are on the UNICEF catalog and are standard items, and have a price range for them, so that customers can draw down on those arrangements and buy whatever they want. So what we did was to display the names of these companies, and also the different products that we have identified for them. There were a couple of products we couldn't do regional and arrangements for them, because we felt that they were strategic products that the global level we need to have a hand in procuring those items for the customer. And then the other option was local market. I don't know if most of you are familiar with what UNICEF does. The kind of markets in those countries are not very vibrant, but we took an intentional approach to explore, do some commodity assessments with our local supply teams to see what potential items or supplies we can work with producers or suppliers in country and grow their market base. So that also, it was also done, sorry, to help so that country office customers will not have to, for example, order an Indian Mark II pump supply division if there is a local market in that country, and we have done the quality assurance to give them that confirmation that, hey, the supply in your country meets all the quality assurance. Their products are this with high quality, and the prices are fair based on what you're doing, so you can go ahead and buy. So that reduces the lead time of what they have to get, and then they get their needs. And with those arrangements come operation and maintenance for most of the things that we buy within the water and environment space. So in conclusion, I just want to say that helping organizations manage system strengthening helps organizations to manage their processes efficiently and, more importantly, holistically. And then the continuous assess improvement that we do, I say it's one of the backbones of applying systems approach to be able to get the desired results that we want, whether it's in the field of quality or supply chain management. And that eventually leads us to the company to getting the best value for money. And then yeah, so that's also one point. And then finally, with systems approach, you're in a better position to look at the whole bigger picture. And that also gives you an avenue to explore not only the problems, but what opportunities are there for you to tap into and grow them. And then you'll be able to, so that not only your team achieves the better outcome, but the whole company or the organization results or outcomes are achieved. So that's what I want to share with you today. I think I've taken almost 40 minutes. Yeah. These are the references for all that I've presented today. And then this is my contact. So I thank you all for listening to my presentation. So Sean, yeah, I'm done. Thank you so much.
Thank you, David, on that one. It was great information on that. We do have a couple hands up. I'm going to, let's see, we got Janet. I think she asked the question in the chat, so let's do that. What is the difference between a system and a process? In ISO 9001 also refers to a process-based approach.
Yeah, for a process, the systems, the question says, what is the difference between a systems and a process approach? That's what it is?
Yes.
Yeah, with the process approach, you're looking at the flow, a linear type of relationship. With a system approach, you're looking more of a complex relationship. So in other words, you don't have only linear or direct connections, but undefinable relationships that you have. So processes, in a way, there's a bit of I would say, a definition or boundaries around how you move from one process to the other. And those ones have a bit more clearer interactions than systems. Systems are more complex, where the connections become so difficult to sort of separate among themselves. So that's why you need to spend a lot of time to understand how they behave. Processes, for example, in a way, they are fairly clear in terms of what a process is, because that has clear SOPs, steps, what you have to do. But the behavior and systems are quite complex. If you really want to understand what they do, where exactly they're actually coming from, and what you can do to get the best out of them.
And then Alfonso had a question. Could you provide an example of what's not system thinking versus what is?
Non-system thinking. Non-system thinking is when in a simple term, it's just when you look at an issue or the problem in isolation. That is what I would do. So if you look at, let's say you have a problem with your factory. My name is used as a factory, and then there's a problem with one particular segment of the production chain. And then you go in to look at only that problem within that whole production chain. That is a non-system approach to working.
Appreciate it. I don't see any more hands up. Let me look at the chat here. I think that's it. Thank you very much for this. Again, if you do have any further questions, he put his email right up there for you. And again, this is the um, sponsored by the customer supplier division. We're going to keep on having a couple more this year, so keep an eye out for that one. And if you do have any other questions or feedback, you can always email myself or David. So thank you all for that, David. I appreciate your time on this and look forward to the next ones coming up.
Thank you so much for everybody who listened. All the best. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Appreciate it. Thank you.